The Razorback Hog Breeders Gazette, Granny's 45-year-old secret. The moment arrives with the quiet force of a long-held truth finally spoken aloud. In the middle of Miss Jane's careful explanation that the greatest research scientists and doctors in the world have been working on the problem of the common cold without success, Granny Clampett delivers the line that crystallizes both the comedy and the philosophy of the entire sequence. "Well, tell him to stop it," she declares. "I come up with a cold cure 45 years ago." The statement is not offered as a boast or a challenge. It is presented as simple fact, the way one might mention the date of a family wedding or the year a particular crop failed. Irene Ryan's delivery is perfect in its lack of self-consciousness. There is no pause for dramatic effect, no upward inflection seeking validation. Granny speaks with the absolute certainty of a woman who has lived inside her own knowledge for nearly half a century and has never found reason to doubt it. Jed Clampett, standing nearby with the measured stillness that Buddy Ebsen made legendary, supplies the corroborating detail that transforms the claim from personal memory into public record. "It was rolled up in the Razorback Hog Breeders Gazette," he says right on the front page. The image is irresistible. One imagines the Gazette itself a humble agricultural publication dedicated to the breeding and care of Razorback hogs, its pages filled with livestock prices, breeding tips, and the occasional recipe carrying on its front page the announcement of a medical breakthrough that the laboratories of the great universities and pharmaceutical companies have yet to equal. The comedy is immediate and layered. The very idea that a cure for the common cold would appear first in a journal devoted to hogs rather than in the Journal of the American Medical Association is deliciously absurd. Yet the absurdity is never allowed to become mockery. The series treats the Gazette with the same respectful affection it extends to every other element of the Clampett's mountain culture. The historical resonance of this detail rewards careful consideration. In the rural South of the early 20th century, specialized agricultural publications served as vital arteries of practical knowledge. Farmers and homesteaders relied on them for information that the formal educational system often ignored or dismissed. Breeding records, weather predictions, home remedies, and household tips circulated through these modest papers with a speed and reliability that urban institutions sometimes envied. By placing Granny's cold cure on the front page of the Razorback Hog Breeders Gazette, the writers of the Beverly Hillbillies perform a quiet act of cultural reclamation. They insist that knowledge generated outside the accredited centers of learning is still knowledge, and that a remedy tested through decades of use among ordinary people carries a legitimacy of its own. The year of the cure's publication, 45 years before the events of the episode, places its discovery somewhere in the early 1920s, an era when American medicine was still consolidating its professional authority, and when folk remedies retained considerable respect in rural communities. Miss Jane's reaction is a model of restrained astonishment. "You did?" she asks, the two words carrying the full weight of institutional surprise. Nancy Culp allows a flicker of genuine curiosity to cross her features before the professional mask reasserts itself. Granny's reply is pure mountain logic. "Well, I thought everybody knew." The assumption that knowledge published in the Razorback Hog Breeders Gazette would naturally reach the great research scientists of the world is both comic and strangely touching. It reveals a worldview in which information travels freely among people of goodwill, unimpeded by the barriers of class specialization or geography. That the information has not traveled is in Granny's mind a failure of attention rather than a failure of the remedy itself. Doctors and scientists don't read that, she observes, not with bitterness but with the mild disappointment of a teacher whose students have neglected their assigned reading. The exchange opens a rich vein of thematic exploration that runs through the entire series. The Beverly Hillbillies continually stages encounters between two systems of knowing: the formal credentialed laboratory-based knowledge of the urban professional class and the experiential tradition-based knowledge of the rural folk. Neither system is presented as wholly superior. City medicine can perform miracles with antibiotics and surgery, yet it remains helpless before the common cold. Mountain medicine may lack the prestige of white coats and university affiliations, yet it offers a remedy that ain't failed in 45 years. The comedy arises from the collision of these systems, but the deeper satisfaction arises from the series' refusal to declare a permanent winner. Jed's quiet promise to take the matter up with Mr. Drysdale functions as a bridge between the two worlds. He does not dismiss Granny's claim. Nor does he expect Miss Jane to abandon her professional skepticism. He simply agrees to carry the information across the boundary and see what happens. The physical staging of the moment enhances its impact. Granny stands in the center of the vast living room, a small figure whose authority expands to fill the space. Irene Ryan uses her entire body to convey conviction: the slight forward tilt of the head, the firm set of the shoulders, the hands that gesture with the precision of a woman accustomed to measuring ingredients by feel rather than by printed recipe. Buddy Ebsen remains slightly to the side, his posture relaxed, yet attentive. The living embodiment of the series' moral center. Max Baer Jr.'s Jethro and Donna Douglas's Ellie Mae form an audience within the scene, their faces registering the mixture of pride and casual acceptance that characterizes the family's attitude toward Granny's accomplishments. They have heard the story before. They believe it without reservation. Their presence reminds the viewer that Granny's knowledge is not an isolated eccentricity but part of a living tradition shared and sustained by the entire household. The mention of the Gazette also serves as a subtle commentary on the nature of fame and recognition. In the world of 1960s television, success was measured by network ratings, magazine covers, and the approval of coastal elites. The Beverly Hillbillies gently suggests that another kind of recognition exists: the quiet acknowledgement of a community that finds a remedy useful and records it in the publication that matters to them. That the great research scientists have never heard of the cure is, from Granny's perspective, their loss rather than hers. The remedy continues to work whether or not the American Medical Association endorses it. This quiet confidence is one of the most attractive features of Granny's character and one of the reasons Irene Ryan's performance remains so beloved. She never seeks validation from the institutions that dismiss her. She simply continues to practice her art with the same dedication she has shown for nearly half a century. Later developments in the composite narrative will return to this claim with increasing comic intensity. Granny will attempt to share her cure with Dr. Clyburn, will open her own office in the Commerce Bank building, and will eventually convert a pharmaceutical salesman into the West Coast distributor of a remedy whose directions turn out to be nothing more than sensible living. Yet the power of the original announcement remains undiminished. The image of the Razorback hog breeder's Gazette, its front page given over to a cold cure rather than to livestock prices or breeding charts, lingers in the mind as a perfect emblem of the series' comic method. The writers take an ordinary object from rural life, invest it with unexpected significance, and then allow the resulting incongruity to generate both laughter and reflection. The cultural context of the mid-1960s deepens the resonance of the moment. America was in the midst of an unprecedented expansion of formal education and professional specialization. The number of college graduates was rising rapidly, the prestige of scientific research was at an all-time high, and the gap between expert knowledge and popular knowledge was widening. Against this background, Granny's calm assertion that a solution published in an agricultural gazette 45 years earlier remains superior to anything the laboratories have produced functions as a gentle act of resistance. The series does not argue that folk knowledge should replace scientific knowledge. It simply insists that folk knowledge deserves a place at the table, and that the dismissal of rural experience as automatically inferior is itself a form of ignorance. Buddy Ebsen's contribution to the scene is characteristically understated yet essential. When he confirms that the cure appeared right on the front page, his tone carries neither irony nor exaggeration. He speaks as a man who has read the Gazette himself, who trusts its contents, and who sees no reason why the rest of the world should not do the same. The line anchors Granny's claim in shared family memory and prevents it from floating free as pure eccentricity. Jed's support transforms the moment from a solo performance into a communal affirmation. The Clampetts stand together behind their knowledge, just as they stand together behind every other value they have brought from the mountains. The comedic timing of the sequence is impeccable. Miss Jane's explanation of the limits of city medicine builds with the careful logic of a well-prepared brief. Granny's interruption arrives at the precise moment when the audience has been prepared to accept that logic, and the resulting reversal is both surprising and inevitable. The subsequent exchange about the Gazette allows the laughter to deepen rather than dissipate. Each new detail, the front page placement, The assumption that everybody should know, the observation that doctors and scientists do not read such publications, adds another layer of comic and thematic richness. The writers understand that the best situation comedy does not rush toward the next joke. It lingers inside the implications of the current one until those implications have been fully savored. In the larger architecture of the composite script, the announcement of the 45-year-old secret serves as the foundation for everything that follows. Without Granny's confidence in her cure, there would be no confrontation with Dr. Clyburn, no decision to open a competing office, no conversion of the pharmaceutical salesman, and no later comic complications involving Tracy Richards and Lady Bell. The Gazette is the seed from which the entire narrative grows. That a single mention of an obscure agricultural publication can generate so much subsequent comedy and character exploration is a testament to the economy and inventiveness of the series at its best. The enduring appeal of the moment lies in its generosity. The Beverly Hillbillies never asks the audience to choose between Granny's knowledge and the knowledge of the medical establishment. It simply presents both, allows them to collide, and trusts that the resulting sparks will illuminate something true about the human desire to heal and to be healed. Granny's cold cure may ultimately prove to be little more than the common sense advice to eat sensibly, rest, and drink plenty of water. Yet the fact that she has packaged that advice as a specific remedy, recorded it in the Razorback Hog Breeders Gazette, and defended it for 45 years against the indifference of the wider world is itself an act of creative and moral significance. In a culture increasingly dominated by official expertise, the series quietly celebrates the unofficial expert who continues to practice her craft with dignity and conviction. As the conversation in the living room draws toward its close, the Gazette has done its work. It has established Granny's authority on her own terms, created a comic premise of remarkable durability, and opened a thematic inquiry into the nature of knowledge that will reverberate through the remainder of the narrative. The front page of a humble hog breeding journal has become for a few luminous moments the most important publication in America. That transformation is pure Beverly Hillbillies magic, warm, funny, deeply respectful of its characters, and quietly profound in its insistence that wisdom can appear in the most unexpected places if one only knows where to look.